Bioplastics sound like the answer to our plastic problem, but most need special facilities to actually break down. Traceless Materials say they've solved that, creating a natural alternative that composts on its own. Jakob, you actually came from the world of emerging market investing. What convinced you this technology had cracked a real problem and not just created another niche alternative?
The commercial traction was starting right from the beginning. As a matter of fact, our founder and CEO, she started the company based on customer demand from a large e-commerce customer of ours. And then basically things progressed from there, and we started to get a lot of inbound feedback from customers, but also in the value chain a little bit earlier, the plastics converters that are looking for alternative materials to replace the current solutions.
The word bioplastics covers a lot of territory. How do you describe what Traceless makes, and how is it different from other green plastics?
Let's have a look at plastics in general. So you have either fossil-based plastics, these can be degradable or non-degradable, and you have bioplastics, also either degradable or non-degradable. What's important to understand about these distinctions is that even degradable plastics do not degrade in nature, only in under very specific circumstances in industrial facilities. So if bioplastics, for example, end up in the environment, they do not disappear. They just break down into smaller particles, which we commonly know as microplastics. What's important to understand about fossil-based and bioplastics is that they're using artificial polymers in order to achieve their product characteristics. Now, traceless materials is a category of its own. We're using bio-based residues, so we're not competing with food, unlike bioplastics. And our materials are degradable in nature, so after 60 days they disappear and they return to the biological cycles, becoming nutrients again for plant growth.
Traceless could replace plastics in all kinds of products, from packaging to cutlery. How do you decide which markets to focus on first?
We're targeting markets that are difficult to address with reuse and recycle. I think that's important to understand. Also, we're targeting markets where plastics today easily end up in nature and in the environment. In terms of the applications that we focus on, we are looking at, roughly speaking, 4 broad categories. So that's paper and cardboard coating, that's films, flexible films, adhesives, as well as injection molded items.
Is there any particular regions that you're seeing more of an uptick in adoption than others?
We are currently strongly focused on Europe because that's where we are based. However, there's a huge customer demand in Asia, for example, where the issue of plastic pollution is the most extreme, as well as Africa, of course, wherever the waste systems aren't really up to handling the amounts of plastic waste that we are producing as societies.
To grow, you'll need a steady stream of agricultural residues. How do you secure supply without competing with food systems?
That's the key to our product, right? So we're not using food staples. So typically bioplastics are based on sugars or starches, etc. Things that could also be used as food. This is very important to us, that we are not competing with food resources. So we are just using residues from food production. These residues are industrially available and they're globally available. And we are working very close with our partners from these industries in order to be able to scale up our production alongside them.
You're building your first industrial plant in Hamburg, aiming for a 30x scale up by the end of the decade. That's ambitious. What has to go right for that to happen?
Basically, taking one step back, starting from lab or a pilot scale production, which we did about 2 to 5 years ago, we then decided not to go full scale directly because this is a process that can go wrong easily. So we're about to commission a new so-called demonstration production plant in Hamburg with a capacity of several thousand tons per year. Now that is a learning opportunity for us. We are also going to market with that production plant and the materials that we produce there. Taking these learnings and applying them to the new project is going to be the challenge now. And if you ask what needs to go right, I think the first challenge for projects of these magnitudes are financing, of course. We're looking for equity and debt funding for that. as well as the engineering side, which also needs to be on point.